Before the sun rose high enough to scorch the earth and the baobab tree stretched its arms across the horizon, there was a village known as Kundi in the heart of the savannah, a place where the air smelled of dry earth and fresh rains, where the wind carried the whispers of ancestors, and where every rustling leaf held secrets only the elders knew. In that village, there was a woman, a mother, whose name was Adama, but her name, beloved by many in the village, would soon be spoken in hushed tones. For what she did, no one would ever forget. It was a night like no other, when the moon hung full and swollen in the sky, casting silver light over the land, and the stars seemed to hum with the voices of spirits. Adama stood at the edge of the village, her heart heavy with a burden that no mother should ever bear. In her arms, wrapped in a threadbare cloth, lay her newborn son. His cries echoed through the air, piercing the stillness of the night, a cry that seemed to call out not just for food, but for something deeper, something only a mother could understand. But Adama was different that night. You see, the villagers had long whispered about the curse that haunted the women of her family. It was said that every firstborn son in their bloodline would be born with the mark of death, a mark only the gods themselves understood, but one that foretold a life of sorrow and suffering. And when Adama's son Jomo was born, the mark was clear, a shadowed crescent on his forehead, as dark as the moonless night. The elders, with their knowing eyes, had warned her, "Protect him, Adama, for the spirits will come for him." But Adama had no faith left in the spirits, no trust in the gods who had stolen away her first child years before. And so, as the wind howled through the trees and the fire crackled in the distance, she made a decision that would shake the very foundation of Kundi. With trembling hands, she carried her son, her flesh and blood, to the place where the earth swallowed the broken pieces of the world, the refuse pits of the village. Beneath the ancient tree, where the villagers disposed of their waste and forgotten things, she laid him down, wrapped him in the tattered cloth, and let him cry. The wind stilled. The world seemed to hold its breath. Adama's heart beat like a drum, heavy and fast, as her hands trembled. The child's cries filled the air, a sound so raw and painful that even the baobab seemed to bend lower in sorrow. And just as she turned to leave, she heard something that would change her life forever. A voice, not from the child, but from the pit. "You dare!" The voice was deep, ancient, and filled with such power that it shook the very ground beneath her feet. Adama froze, her breath caught in her throat. She turned slowly and saw a figure rising from the refuse pit. It was not human, it was shadow, moving like liquid night, and its eyes glowed with an unsettling fire. The voice spoke again, echoing like thunder through the night. "What have you done, Adama? What have you released?" The figure stepped closer, and Adama could feel the weight of the world pressing against her chest. She had not understood what she had done. She had not known the price that was to be paid for forsaking her own blood. "What have you done?" The curse had only just begun. The figure, born of shadow and darkness, stepped forward, its presence colder than the chill that swept through the savannah at night. Adama could feel the air itself quiver, as if the very earth had been struck by the force of a thunderbolt. Her hands shook and her heart pounded in her chest, but her feet were frozen, rooted to the ground like the ancient baobab that watched over the village. "Tell me," the shadow spoke again, its voice like the rustle of dead leaves. "Do you not understand the power you have called upon, woman of Kundi?" Adama tried to speak, but her voice caught in her throat. She had no words, no defense. She had only acted out of fear, the fear of losing another child, the fear of a curse she could not bear. I had no choice," she whispered, her words trembling on the edge of her lips. "I could not let him die. I couldn't." The shadow's glowing eyes locked onto hers, and for a moment, time seemed to stand still. The wind no longer whispered, the night no longer sang. All that existed was this creature, this spirit that rose from the refuse pit, a force she could not comprehend. Ah, but you did have a choice, the shadow crooned. You chose to cast him away as though he were a refuse. You chose to abandon him to the winds of fate. Adama fell to her knees. The weight of the words struck her harder than any punishment she could ever imagine. The child she had carried for 9 moons, the child she had hoped would break the curse, she had left him to die. No, no, she cried out, her voice breaking. I never meant to. But the shadow raised its hand, silencing her with a single gesture. Its form shimmered like the surface of a still river at dusk, shifting between human and something far more ancient. You have broken the sacred trust, Adama, he said. In forsaking the child, you have called upon the wrath of the spirits. Adama, in her desperation, reached out toward the figure. Please, what must I do? What can I do to fix it? The shadow's laughter was hollow, an echo that rang in her ears like the cry of a wounded bird. There is no fixing this. The child has been cast into the abyss of fate where none return. It stepped closer, its form growing larger, darker. You have broken the balance, and now you must pay the price. Adama felt her breath grow shallow, her limbs weak. The shadow towered over her now, its presence overwhelming. She could not escape it, could not flee from the weight of her actions. All around her, the night seemed to draw closer, like the walls of a prison closing in. The village of Kundi, the people she had known all her life, seemed so far away. But then, just as the shadow's hand reached toward her with a coldness that could freeze the blood in her veins, a voice interrupted. A voice full of warmth, full of ancient wisdom. Enough! The shadow recoiled, its form flickering like a candle in a strong wind. A figure stepped out from the darkness, a figure Adama recognized immediately. It was the village elder, Mosi, her father's brother, his face etched with the wisdom of many seasons. His eyes, ancient yet kind, met hers, and she could feel a warmth spread through her chest. Uncle Mosi, she gasped, her voice barely audible. Mosi walked calmly toward the shadow, his staff tapping the ground with each step. He did not flinch, did not pause, even when the air thickened with the shadow's fury. This one, he said softly, knows not the true price of her actions, but she will learn. You will teach her as you taught all who walked the earth before her. She has made a mistake, yes, but she has not yet lost her soul. The shadow glared at Mosi, his fiery eyes burning with anger. But Mosi did not move. He stood unwavering, as though he were the mountain itself. Let her be tested, he continued, his voice strong. Let her walk the path of redemption. If she dares, she may save the child, but if not, the price will be paid. The shadow snarled, but with a final flicker of its form, it vanished into the night. Mosi turned to Adama, his gaze softening and his voice lowered to a whisper. There is still time, he said, but you must face the spirits of the ancestors. You must make things right, or you will lose everything. Adama's heart raced, her mind clouded with fear and confusion. But beneath it all, a spark of hope flickered in her chest. Perhaps, just perhaps, there was a way to save her son. The night was still, heavy with the weight of the promise that had just been spoken. The ancient winds had returned, but they no longer carried the same whispers of despair. Instead, they carried a new sound, the sound of Adama's own heartbeat, thundering in her ears as the weight of her decision settled in her chest. Moses' eyes, deep as the riverbeds of the savannah, held hers with a gravity that no words could describe. The silence between them stretched long, but Adama knew the elder spoke with the authority of the earth itself. The choice was no longer hers to make. The gods had spoken, and now she must obey. Do you understand what you must do? Moses' voice was low, steady, but with an undertone of sorrow. He knew the path ahead would be perilous, fraught with dangers even the bravest warrior could not face. The spirits had been angered, and Adama had disturbed the delicate balance of the world. I, I think so, she whispered, her voice barely a breath. I must go to the spirits, yes, to the ancestors. Mosi nodded, his expression solemn. To them you must go. But first, you must find the heart of the forest. It is there that the spirits wait. They are angry, but not blind. If you can prove your heart is true, they may grant you mercy. Adama trembled at the thought. The heart of the forest was a place spoken of in stories and dreams, a place where the veil between the living and the dead was thinnest. Many had ventured there before her, and many had not returned. The path was guarded by creatures of myth, lions that spoke, snakes that sang, and trees that walked beneath the moon. But Moses' gaze never wavered. Go now, before the dawn comes. Do not hesitate, for each step you take from here will either be one toward redemption or one toward damnation. Adama swallowed hard, her throat dry as sand, but she nodded. With a final glance at Mosi, she turned toward the village, the small flame of hope flickering weakly inside her chest. She had to make things right. She had to. The journey was long, and the land stretched before her like an endless sea of grass, dark and mysterious, beneath the looming shadows of the trees. As she walked, the stars above her seemed to grow brighter, as if watching her every move. The ground was soft beneath her feet, but there was an eerie silence that pressed on her as though the world was holding its breath, waiting. As she entered the thick forest that bordered the village, a sense of foreboding washed over her. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth and the faint, sweet smell of wildflowers. The trees loomed overhead, their branches twisted into grotesque shapes, their trunks gnarled and ancient. The wind whispered through the leaves, but it was not the wind of the savannah. This was the wind of the deep forest, older, wiser, and full of secrets. Suddenly, the air shifted. The ground beneath her feet felt softer, as though she were walking on a bed of leaves that had not been disturbed in centuries. She heard a sound, faint at first, a low growl, like the rumble of thunder. She froze, her breath catching in her throat. From the shadows, a figure stepped forward, tall and silent. It was a lion, his mane shimmering like gold in the moonlight. His eyes glowed with an otherworldly light, and his gaze fixed on her with an intensity that sent a shiver down her spine. You seek the heart of the forest, the lion spoke, his voice deep and resonant. Adama's heart skipped a beat. A talking lion. She had heard the stories, but never truly believed them. And yet, here it was, standing before her. I do, she said, her voice steady, but her body trembling. I seek the mercy of the spirits. I must find the child I left behind. The lion tilted his head, its eyes narrowing. Many have come before you, seeking the same. Few have returned. Why should the spirits grant mercy to one who has already abandoned her own flesh? Adama swallowed hard. I was afraid, but I know now that I was wrong. I must save him. Please tell me the way. The lion's gaze softened, but it still held a deep knowing, as though it saw through her into the very core of her being. It stepped aside, revealing a narrow path that seemed to lead deeper into the heart of the forest. The path was lit by glowing mushrooms, casting an eerie but beautiful light on the ground. Walk this path, the lion said. The spirits will test you, but know this, the journey will show you who you truly are. And with that, the lion turned and melted back into the shadows, leaving Adama alone on the path that would either lead her to salvation or to destruction. Adama's feet moved of their own accord, guided by the soft glow of the bioluminescent mushrooms that lined the path. The air grew thicker, colder, as though the very forest was holding its breath, watching her every step. Shadows danced around her, creatures unseen yet ever present, their eyes glinting in the darkness like stars in a forgotten sky. The deeper she walked, the heavier the silence became.
until it felt as though the weight of the world rested on her shoulders. Her heart beat wildly, and the sounds of the savannah, the chirps of crickets, the rustling of grass, seemed like distant memories.
Here in the heart of the forest, there was only the sound of her own breath, labored and ragged. Suddenly, the path before her widened, and in the center of the clearing stood a tree. But this was no ordinary tree. Its trunk was black as night, its branches twisted in impossible directions, as though it had been shaped by the hands of spirits long forgotten. At the base of the tree, a stone pedestal sat, bathed in the light of the mushrooms, and atop it, there was a small bowl filled with water that shimmered like liquid silver. As Adama approached, a voice echoed through the trees, rich and deep, yet somehow distant, as if it came from the earth itself. To save the child, you must pass the trials. The first test is of your heart, for only those who are true of heart may receive the gift of mercy. Drink from the bowl and face what lies within. Adama hesitated. She had heard the stories, of course, of those who sought the heart of the forest and failed the trials. Many had entered the forest seeking redemption, but none had returned. What lay within the bowl? What would it show her?
Taking a deep breath, she knelt before the pedestal and cupped her hands around the bowl. The water within was cool, and as she lifted it to her lips, it seemed to glow brighter, more radiant, as though the very essence of the forest had come alive within it. She drank deeply, the cold liquid sending a shock through her body, and as the water settled within her, something changed. The world around her seemed to shift, the shadows warping and stretching, and suddenly she was no longer in the clearing. She stood in a small hut, a fire crackling in the center. The air smelled of smoke and herbs, the scent of her grandmother's kitchen. There in the corner sat a woman with dark eyes, a woman who looked like Adama, but younger, filled with the same spark of hope that Adama had once had in her youth. Mother, Adama's voice was a whisper, tremulous. The woman turned slowly, her eyes filled with sorrow. Is this how you want your child to remember you? Is this what you would have chosen for him? Adama's chest tightened. The woman in front of her was not her mother, but the spirit of the woman she once was. A woman who had dreamed of a family, who had dreamed of love. A woman who had abandoned hope when the world grew too heavy. I didn't mean to. Adama choked. The words stuck in her throat. The spirit of her younger self stood, her eyes now filled with a burning intensity. You abandoned the child because you feared the curse, Adama. But that curse, like all things, is a test of your heart, your courage, and your love. The child is a part of you, and you cannot run from what is within you. Adama's knees buckled beneath her, and she fell to the ground, tears streaming down her face. I was afraid. I was so afraid. The spirit of her younger self stepped forward and placed a hand on her shoulder. Fear is not the enemy, Adama. It is the refusal to face it that weakens the soul. The spirits do not curse you, they test you. The only question that matters is this: will you rise? And in that moment, Adama understood. The trial was not the forest, nor the spirits, nor the creatures that guarded the path. The trial was herself, her fears, her mistakes, and her courage to rise above them. She rose to her feet, wiping the tears from her face, her heart beating with a new clarity. I will rise, she whispered to herself, to the spirits, to the child she had left behind. And as the words left her lips, the world around her shifted again. She found herself back at the pedestal, the bowl now empty, the path before her glowing brighter than before. The voice echoed once more, softer this time, as though satisfied. You have passed the trial of the heart, Adama. The path is open to you. Adama took a deep breath, and with renewed strength, she stepped forward, ready for whatever came next. The clearing ahead opened like a wound in the earth, its center glowing with an ethereal light that pulsed like the heartbeat of the forest itself. Adama's heart hammered in her chest, and though her body was tired, her spirit felt more alive than ever. She had come so far. She had faced the trial of her heart
and seen the truth within herself. But now, the final reckoning awaited. As she stepped into the clearing, the world around her seemed to still. The trees, once whispering, had fallen silent. The air grew thick, heavy with an unseen presence. From the depths of the clearing, a voice, ancient and powerful, spoke. Adama, daughter of Kundi, you have walked the path, but you have not yet proven yourself. The voice was not one, but many, layered upon one another, a chorus that seemed to echo from the very soul of the forest. The ground beneath her trembled as shadows began to stretch, rising from the earth like specters from forgotten times. The clearing was no longer just a place of light. It was a place of judgment, where the spirits of the ancestors would decide her fate. Before her appeared figures, luminous and otherworldly, spirits of the past, each one a silhouette of wisdom and power. They circled her, their gazes piercing as though they were peeling back the layers of her soul, seeking the truth of her heart. The air buzzed with their energy, and the wind began to howl. Tell us, Adama, one of the spirits asked, his voice soft like the rustle of leaves, but carrying the weight of 1,000 generations. Why did you abandon the child you bore? Adama swallowed hard. She could feel the truth of her actions as if the earth itself had opened to swallow her. She had feared the curse, feared that her son would die just as the others in her bloodline had. She had let fear cloud her judgment, and in doing so she had cast aside her own flesh and blood. I feared, she began, her voice trembling but firm. I feared the curse. I feared the pain of losing another child, another piece of my heart. I thought I could save him by abandoning him to fate, but I was wrong. I was blind. The spirits moved in a ripple of sound, their forms shifting with each breath of the wind. And now, one spirit asked, what will you do to undo the wrong you have wrought? Adama's gaze hardened. The shame was there, but beneath it, something else burned, a determination, a fierce love for the child she had left behind. She had already walked the path of self-reflection. She had faced her deepest fear, her own darkness. Now there was only one thing left to do. I will find him, she said, her voice rising with the conviction of a woman who had seen her own soul laid bare. I will face whatever I must to bring him back. I will not leave him in the pit of despair. I will not let him face the curse alone. The spirits circled her one last time, their whispers like the wind through the grass, but now they were softer, almost approving. The silence that followed was heavy, laden with meaning. Then the leader of the spirits spoke, its voice like thunder rolling over the plains. Your journey is not yet over, Adama. You have faced the trial of the heart. Now, you will face the trial of the soul. A great shadow rose from the center of the clearing, towering over her like a mountain. It was a beast, a creature of nightmares. Its eyes glowed like molten gold, its teeth sharp like the edge of a blade. It was the embodiment of her fears, her doubts, her guilt. It was the trial she had to face, her own inner darkness now made flesh. The ground trembled beneath her feet as the beast would let out a roar that shook the very heavens. Adama's heart raced, but she did not back away. She knew what she had to do. She had faced her heart, and now she had to face the beast within. Come then, she said, her voice steady. Let me face you, for only by defeating you can I save my son. The beast growled, his eyes locked onto hers, but for the first time in her life, Adama felt no fear, only the fire of a mother's love. As the creature lunged at her, she stepped forward, her body and soul aligned in a single, powerful truth. If you found this journey of redemption, courage, and the spirit of a mother unforgettable, stay with us. There's always more wisdom, more untold stories, and more lessons from the heart of Africa. Like, comment, and subscribe, and don't miss the next chapter of our ancient tales. The spirits of the forest are always waiting for those who dare to seek the truth. Will you rise? Will you face your own trials? Until next time, keep your heart open, for the stories are endless. Visit again for more captivating folk tales
from the heart of Africa.